I got another 2v4 for you today, and it is Shanks and Mihawk versus Luffy, Zoro, Kid, and Law. This fight will take place in Elbaf, of all places. Yes, this fight's going to take place in Elbaf. So let's see what goes down. Physical strength is going to go to Shanks and Mihawk. Luffy's carrying his team heavily, and he's strong as fuck, that boy is, right? But Shanks is also on Luffy's level, and Mihawk is a little bit weaker than Luffy, but it evens out, basically. So they get the, strength, striking power with their swords, lifting power, they got the physical strength side of things. Speed, I'm giving that shit to the other side. I'm not giving that shit to Shanks and Mihawk. Mihawk, I don't see him moving like that. Like he moves, but he ain't that fast. He ain't that fast, my guy. Who like Mihawk. Luffy's fast. Like Luffy's fast. Law's fast with his, Appa fruit. He uses his, Appa fruit room, and he can switch spots real quick. Yeah, man, I give it to that team. For those two characters, Luffy and Law are pretty damn fast. Durability wise, I give it to the for Luffy, Zoro, Kid, and Law. And like this is the thing, man. I don't think they're like durable, right? Shanks and Mihawk. I don't think they're that durable. They're you know they got what they got, but they can't take hits, right? Luffy can take a hit, right? Um, Kid can take hits too. We got them. Now it's Shanks and Mihawk, so he's gonna have to take Mihawk's hits, not Shanks' hits. We know why he can't take Shanks' hits. But Shanks also was using, a real big boy move when he attacked him. He ain't gonna come at the situation the same way. Now that Kid has somebody there with some brains, like Law saying, "Hey, don't just go in there like that. We have to, come up with a strategy. These are real fucking guys." You know, endurance wise goes to Luffy, Zoro, Kid, and Law. Zoro is an endurance beast. He could be having, blood loss. His bones can be shattered. You know, and he's like still trying to fight. Luffy is the same kind of endurance. You know, Kid and Law don't have the endurance of Luffy and Zoro, but they're pretty good too. Shanks and Mihawk are just like they use their big boy moves, right? And they finish people off. But like when these people are still standing and shit, like are they ready for that long fight? I don't know. Like we know they're pretty cool with what they got, but remember who's on the team before? It's Straw Hat, bro. So you gotta factor all that shit in. So that's why I give it to the team before. Um, and then like I said, Zoro is an endurance monster, right? Um, Intelligence goes to Shanks and Mihawk. Now, Law, I don't think is smarter than Shanks and Mihawk, and if he is, it's only by a little bit. But two minds are better than one, and like you know, all of the things they know help in this fight. You know, Shanks is the leader of his crew. Mihawk ran his own island. You know, and evaded the Marines and used what he had to use to, you know, keep people off his dick, essentially, right? You can't be a dumbass doing shit like that. Luffy, Zoro, and Kid are not that smart. Law is. That's one guy. I don't want to give it to them. I'll give it to Shanks and Mihawk. But if you give it to the team of four, I get it. Law's pretty smart. Experience wise goes to Shanks and Mihawk. Everybody on that team is under 30 and they're like, almost 40 or 40 years old. So they got that, right? Experience. Close skills go to Shanks and Mihawk. They're coming up on them. They're using sword play. They're using their sword styles. They're really giving them the fucking what for with the swords and shit, right? They're coming up on these guys. They may try to go for the long range attacks and shit like that. But hey, man, they got a guy named Straw Hat on their team, but they got Monkey D. Luffy who can stretch. So range skills go to the team four. Zoro can throw out long range attacks. Law and Kid can also throw out long range attacks too. So like everybody on that team can do that shit, right? And I ain't saying that Shanks and Mihawk don't got any moves. They do. But there's four guys. So and one of those guys, so basically the most, if you ask me in this field, the most powerful person on the field is Shanks. But Luffy's like right behind him, right? And then Mihawk's under Luffy. And then Zoro, Law, and Kid, they're like, right around the same level below Mihawk. I got it in their favor. Their, long range skills go to, the team of four. Recovery goes to the team of four too. They have Law on that team. Law is a doctor. No, that's enough said there. I don't have to say no more about that. Hacks go to the team of four. Gear 5, they have Luffy with all three types of hockey. They have Zoro with all three types of hockey. Now, not mastered or anything. They have Kid with all, or, Conquer's hockey too. All three of them have Devil Fruits. One doesn't. He's basically like he's the person who jumps into the water to save people who, get dealt with or thrown into the water. But they're fighting on Elbaf, so they don't have to worry about that too much. It's a big ass island, man. The Gear 5 hacks turning the environment to rubber really, does fuck with them. Shanks has all three types of hockey. More refined than Luffy. However, like I said, that's just one guy, and then there's four guys over there. They all are weaker than him, but Luffy's basically on his level. Like you could easily say Luffy's stronger than Mihawk. If you think so, if you think Luffy's more powerful than Mihawk, I'm not gonna, I wouldn't shoot you down. But I think right now that Shanks is just slightly over Luffy. Like I said, he has all three types of hockey, right? Mihawk might have all three types, but we know he has all the two. He has definitely, and I will say definitely about this, observation hockey and armament hockey are like to the max. We know that he has those to the max. Conquer's hockey, I ain't signing off on that shit though. But he has that. But they have three Conquers on the other team, So I'm gonna give it to the team of four. And then the environment goes to the team of four. Gear 5's already, working its magic. Shanks does know the territory, and he does. Luffy with that, in this fight, I give it to, Luffy, and his team of, four. They're gonna win. The team of four is gonna win this shit high difficulty. Let me know in the comments what you feel or think or know about this fight. And be cool on the corner. I really want to know what you think. Shanks and Mihawk. You think they're like equals? I think that they're not. I think Mihawk is like a tier below Shanks. I think Luffy's actually closer to Shanks than Mihawk is. And that's me. You gotta let me know what you think and how you see things in the comments below. Be cool on the corner.